This is Warrenton, at the far eastern edge of the North Carolina Piedmont, about an hour north of Durham and not far from the Virginia border. If you disregard power lines and automobiles, this town looks much as it did 100 plus years ago.
Warrenton's population is about the same as it was after the War of Northern Aggression, about 900. We bloomed in the 1840s and the 1850s, and after the war, the economy sort of became stable, and we've just knocked along like that ever since.
But that's good as things turned out, because Warrenton remains the quintessential small town. Southern style, a community with fine old homes and friendly people.
Hello, Margaret.
Hey, Richard. How are
What
you?
you up to?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Come sit
Been a
with
long
me.
time.
Warrenton is a front porch town. That's where we visit. That's where we rest. That's where we entertain our company. If I had my way, I guess I'd make it a law. It's against the law to build a house without front porch.
Some of Warren County's best front porches are attached to old plantation houses, a few of which have been lovingly restored from various stages of dilapidation.
When we first saw the house from the road, you almost couldn't see the house. The vegetation was so overgrown.
We really didn't even know it was a house. But when we were in the driveway, I fell in love with the place, and the house grew on me. And Larry told me it would take 5 years, and it was a long 5 years.
One of the first things we had to do was to remove 4 separate beehives from the house that were actually embedded in the walls. We called a local contractor to come in here, who was a particularly colorful fellow, a man of few words. And after I explained to him what I needed done, he looked at the house and he looked at me and he said to me, "Son, are you a carpenter?" And I said, "Well, no." And he thought a minute and he said, "You will be."
The Carvers and their 3 sons learned to be carpenters rather quickly. And the product of their vision and hard work is Magnolia Manor Plantation Bed and Breakfast, complete with a tiny closet under the kitchen stairs, where a little girl named Lucy liked to play. In 1903.
God's reward for restoring this house is to sit here at 5:30 in the morning and enjoy all the nature that's here, whether it be the rain or the snow or the birds in the magnolia tree. It's just awesome.
We discovered Oakley Hall Plantation in 1991, a 1855 plantation house that had been vacant for 15 years. And you had to view the house with a flashlight because the windows were boarded up. Oh, it was awful.
The transformation has been remarkable, thanks to another Warrenton newcomer. Undaunted by the near-endless task of restoring Oakley Hall, Ernie Fleming also rehabbed some Main Street real estate and opened the first of Warrenton's lovely antique shops. And more recent newcomers Betty and Bill Miller, who have restored an 1850s home farther out on Main, also have opened their antique store.
Hello, Betty. Hey, Dad. How are you? I'll see y'all later. See you, good.
If parts of Warrenton look a bit like a Norman Rockwell painting, scenes like this are repeated every day somewhere in this friendly place, where walking has been making a comeback.
When I came to Warrenton 2 years ago, for the first time I did what everyone does, tour the town and walk through Warrenton. I'm located a 1908 home, which I have spent several years renovating and updating to bring it back to a livable standard and to simply preserve the 1908 structure. Here in Warrenton, we live surrounded by history. This is a Jacob Holt house built by Jacob Holt, the builder and architect in the late 19th century, who was responsible for bringing the Italianate style to Warrenton and this area of the Piedmont.
In Williamsburg, you see a lot of reproductions, what people think they look like. In Warren County and in Warrenton, we live in the originals. But basically, life is slow. We're living in those ways like people used to live 50, 100 years ago. On the other hand, the idea that progress has completely passed us by is not correct at all. We've got a couple of traffic lights right out here on Main Street, and every Friday afternoon, about mid to late afternoon, we have about 5 minutes of traffic congestion.
If you'd like a brief introduction to the Warrenton of not so long ago, there's no better guide than delightful Portia Hawes, who can be seen most warmish days like this on the front porch of her small yellow house, working on one of her beautiful quilts. Portia's stories and quilts come together in an intriguing bit of pre-Civil War lore, which has it that secret codes were once designed into quilts used to guide runaways along the Underground Railroad from border slave states to freedom in the North.
So each patch in this quilt tells a story. In some areas, the bow tie said, "Dress up. Look like you're free slaves. Stand up tall."
Monkey wrench. Take some tools along. Wagon wheel, or the Dresden plate. Pack everything in a wagon. Bear claw. Follow the bear's trail. They know where berries and water are. Crossroads. Getting closer to Cleveland, Ohio, a goal for many on the Underground Railroad. Shoe fly, a safe house. Similar to the log cabin. Center square red, safe. Yellow, better not go. And double wedding ring.
And it said to the men and women, "Get married. You move as a couple rather than moving as single people."
In addition to these colorful stories, Portia also likes to relate more recent history, some of which she can lay claim to herself.
My mother's maternal grandfather, John A. Hyman, was first black congressman to represent North Carolina in the U.S. Congress. This is a typical scene of a cattle farm. And my father raised Black Angus cattle down in the Inez area. This one is a picture of the inside of Harrison's grocery store. And it was a gathering place for men, particularly.
The local barbershop was another gathering place, where some patrons were more enthused than others.
This one is W.A. Miles, and he was one of the owners of Miles Hardware, where Hardware Cafe is now. It seemed anything that you needed, anything you wanted, you could go to Miles Hardware and get it.
You can still get pretty much anything you need there, as long as it's lunch. The store looks largely the same on the outside today, and now as a cafe, remains a vital part of the Warrenton community. The fabric of this quiet Carolina town is woven seamlessly from threads of old and new. It's a refreshingly tranquil spot, only a dozen or so miles from the interstate, relatively unspoiled by the relentless whirl of progress. A delightful reminder of a time when people moved at a slower pace and enjoyed life's simple pleasures to the fullest.
This is almost a storybook town, totally different from any place I have ever lived. It's a wonderful thing. I just couldn't live anywhere else.